Good morning, everybody that's joining. I will be there momentarily, I promise. And today I'm going to continue working on our hook books. For those of you that know, Meredith, I've been crocheting since the 1970s. I used to read and follow patterns a lot, and then I started freehanding a lot. And in the mornings, I jump on around now and do tutorials. Teaching you how you can freehand things and take the basic principles of if you can hold your hook and you can hold your yarn and you can yarn over and pull through your loop, you can crochet just about anything. It's just a matter of figuring those things out. And I teach you how to do those things, figure those things out. Getting myself ready here. Give my dog his treat. Make my coffee, wait for everybody to jump online, and today I'm going to work a little bit. I had a couple more ideas on how to increase the capacity of our pockets and make them a little bit bigger so they hold the clover hooks, which is something I didn't think about yesterday. So I'm going to work on that, and then I'm going to work on doing the center portion where the book folds. And then we're going to, at some point this week, work on the cover for the book and the pockets that are in the sides of the book. I'm going to sit down here in a second and show you. Excuse me. While I'm waiting for my coffee to brew. So, good morning, everybody. So the hook books that we are working on this morning, and I take it a week to one project. So this week we're doing hook books. Last week we did, I'm not sure what we did last week. If we did the market bags last week? No, we didn't do the market bags last week. But we did the market bags one week. We did the shrug that you see hanging back there on my mannequin. The week before that, I would have to go back and look. I don't remember exactly. Oh, I know what we did last week. Last week we did bucket hats. And we made the bucket hats like a regular traditional bucket hat. And then we worked on a pattern from another young man who wrote his first pattern that was a hat. So we worked on that pattern. And then we did granny square bucket hats. So we did 3 bucket hats last week. All the same without a pattern. We just kind of freehanded things. So this was our hook books that we were working on yesterday that we started. And you can see it's all crocheted. It's not stitched together. It's just crocheted. It uses short rows to form the pockets. There's my coffee now. It uses short rows to form the pockets. And we were playing around yesterday with how to make them bigger. Looking at things closely to see how you can kind of deconstruct it, figuratively speaking, so that you could figure out what the stitches were and where you were putting them, because this pattern was no longer available. So, and then the top part is pockets. So today I'm going to play around with making the pockets a little bit bigger to accommodate the clover hooks, which the clover hooks will fit in this. The clover hooks will fit in this, but it's like a tight squeeze. And I don't want to have to like work with my hook to get it in there. Excuse me. So, I mean, unless you put them in backwards, and then they really don't stay that well. And I did show yesterday the piece that I started. How you could use a treble crochet and make them a little bit bigger so that they would accommodate the hooks. And today I think I'm going to play around with yet a different way, because you can see with the treble crochet, it's just the stitches are longer and makes a bigger pocket. So whereas the regular hooks, even though they're bigger, will slide down into them, the clover hooks, because they're rubber, just need a little bit more space in there. So I had some ideas, so I was going to play around with that. Also, if you go back to yesterday's tutorial, and you can find them on my YouTube channel, I went over how you could easily make this pattern to accommodate your specific needs, whether you wanted to make it to hold knitting needles, which are significantly longer. You could still do that. You would just have to, you know, I show you all that yesterday, how you could adapt what you were doing to accommodate knitting needles. I also showed you how you could adapt the pattern. So instead of making a book like this, you could make just a wrap. Good morning, Samantha. You could make, this has a piece of cardboard in the back of it. You could make a wrap that you just tied instead of folding into a book. So that was yesterday. So today I think I'm going to go through and see if I can figure a different way to make those, to accommodate those clover hooks. And then I'm going to keep making my pockets to the center, and then I'm going to, which is only a couple pockets, I think there's 5 pockets on each side. And then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to make the spine of the book. And again, hey Cindy, this is just the inside insert, this part here that we're working on. And then I'll show you how we can do the spine of the book so that you can attach a cover to the outside of it without having to like really stitch or sew. And again, this is all off the top of my head because this pattern's not available, so I'm just kind of going through and looking at the piece that I have made years ago and figuring things out. So I kind of walk through my thought process of figuring things out so that when you want to figure things out, you kind of have an idea of what I'm doing. So, on that note, I need to turn on my light. I need to grab my coffee. And I will be right back. Thank you, Cindy. Hello, good morning. Janie, hello, good morning. How is everybody this morning? Karen, hello. All right, let me grab my coffee. Again, you can find my previous tutorials I do in the morning there at my YouTube. Yes, I am. That was an odd comment. I'm not Meredith. I'm not sure, Karen, but my name is Meredith. Pinkwitch QT is Pinkwitch QT is my TikTok handle. My name is Meredith. Not sure what's going on there. Thank you for all the likes. I appreciate it. Let me grab my coffee and then turn my light on, and I'm going to sit back down and jump into this and try to figure out how I can make a different pocket for that, to make a pocket that I actually like to accommodate those clover hooks, because I have a lot of clover hooks. Like, I can fit all of my regular hooks in here. Like, even these ones, I can fit in here. Oh, maybe not. Huh, that one doesn't fit in there either. Well, either way, I have a crap ton of these because when you've been crocheting for as long as I have, that's all that was really available. Okay. What have I done? What have you done with my yarn lady? I'm the yarn lady? So anyway. Oh my goodness. You know what? Sometimes TikTok glitches. If you're seeing a guy washing dishes, go back out of my live and then come back in, and maybe you'll see me again. Now I understand. Sometimes it glitches. Sometimes it just doesn't stop playing the previous video. So go back out of my live and come back in, and you should see me instead of the guy washing dishes. I wonder if she can hear me. Let's see. How do I comment? You'd think I'd have this down pat by now. Oh, you figured it out. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. I don't know if you could, were able to hear me or not, but it was a TikTok glitch. She figured it out. Sometimes it like glitches for me too, like or it keeps playing the audio from the previous video. Okay. I will buy paper plates before I sit and watch somebody wash dishes. I can't stand to wash dishes. I do, and I don't have a dishwasher. Though my husband takes turns. I know, really. No. I am not the dishwasher. And yeah, I have, actually, as a matter of fact, they laugh at me because I will get to the points in the summertime where I don't want to come in my house. So I will actually buy those like large plastic things of plasticware. You know, the ones that have the dividers for the forks, knives, and spoons. And like, I'm glad to see you too, Karen. We were all a little bit confused there. And it's like the perfect size. It fits right in my silverware drawer. So I will actually push all my silverware to the back of the drawer, like my silverware, actual silverware, container to the back of the drawer, and I will slide the plasticware container in the front of my drawer so that when they open it up, yeah, that's how much I like to do dishes. Yeah, and you know what? You don't have to clean it, so you don't have to worry about dust and things falling in it, because when all the plasticware is gone, you just buy a new one and slide it right in the drawer. I have my moments. I gave you treats already. Sir Charles is not happy with me because, I know I'm chattering way too much this morning, but Sir Charles is not happy with me because we figured out that the, you-know-what that we put in his bone really was what was giving him some bladder issues. Because of the extra protein. So he's not happy that he's not been getting it much. That's really been harassing me lately. So, excuse me, until I've ignored him long enough, we might have to deal with the aggressive hints and talk a little bit. Something to drink by the time I'm done chattering away. Don't stop for the next hour. I'll be desperate for something to drink. Coffee it is. And then we'll jump into that. I don't know that I really actually jumped into anything yet this morning. I just kind of procrastinated. As I have done with the bag linings, but I'm getting there. I'll get there. It all comes. I liked, so I can see what I'm doing. I'm on my way. I'm just a little bit late this morning. I had to call my mom. Back, so my brain was a little bit behind schedule. But, alright. On to bigger and better things. Coffee. Thank you guys for all the likes. I appreciate it. Alrighty, so yesterday we went through making the pocket a little bit bigger, and now I have to figure this out because even though I told you guys to always have a notebook and write things down, I did not have a notebook near me, and I did not write things down. So I think I'm just going to pull up my Google Drive is great for writing patterns. It's Google Drive and Google Documents. I like to do that because then I can just put it like right in my phone. And I can have it on like my burner phone that I use to look things up while I'm doing my lives with you guys. So I can have it anywhere, and then when I go back in, it's either on my computer or it's on my phone. Like, I love it. So where do I want to put this? I'll put this in the My Patterns folder. And I know I'll have to go back and look for it. And inevitably, I'll forget where I put it. I'll put it in the Bags pattern, or in the Bags folder. In a new document. There we go. So I can type my notes. I can type my notes as I go. It's like awesome. Alrighty, whoops. So this was the hook that I was using, I think, 5mm. And to start the next pocket off, we did our 10 double crochets down. So I'm going to work, and I'm going to, oh yeah, I love it. It's everything's saved into Google, in their Google Drive, and you know, I don't care what they say about like privacy. Like, nobody has any privacy anymore. You can type in anybody's name and you find everything about them anymore. So whatever, if somebody really wants to troll my Google Drive account and like troll my patterns and my like other goofy notes that I have taken, knock yourself out. What are you gonna find? Nothing that you can't already find online. So I don't really care. Anyway. Okay, so I am going to work on trying to make a different pocket. Make this pocket a little bit differently. So the first row that we started was single crochet. The single crochet was our base row for the very beginning of the project. The rest of them were all double crochets. So double crochet down my first 10 stitches, and I do remember that I skipped the first stitch because I used my chain 2 as my, so this is the same thing we did yesterday. I'm just going to, when I turn around to do another pocket, I'm going to try to do the pocket a different way. So I'm going to explain to you what I'm doing as I go, and kind of like what I'm thinking as I go, so that you can kind of get the gist of how I'm putting things together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have my 10, and I know the next row has to be double crochet, but it has to be in the back loops. So I'm looking at it, if you're looking at it this way, if you tilt it towards you, you see the back loops, front and back loops. And I'm just going to continue to double crochet in the back loops only. So from my point of view, it's different, but you can see better anyway from the back point of view. You can see the back loop, and I'm just going to yarn over, insert my hook, pull through the stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Same principle. Hold your yarn, hold your hook, yarn over. You can pull up a loop. You can do any of these stitches. So the next 20 are in the back loops. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This feels tighter than it was yesterday. I know I'm using the same size hook, but well, maybe it's not. Maybe my attitude's just a little bit tighter today. That's a thing, you know. You'll find some days you crochet really loose because you're just really relaxed, and other days I'm like trying to get something accomplished, and I look at it and I go, oh my god, I made that so much smaller. I used the same hook and yarn. I just crocheted so much tighter and so much faster. And then of course, me being me, I'll pull it out and go, okay, you need to chill. Okay, so did I get it right here? 1, 2, 3. Yes, 20. Okay. I'm glad I'm making you guys all laugh. You know, I feel bad in the mornings because all I do is chatter away and talk, but I figured since I was just going to play with this today, I could do a little bit more chattering than usual. But I'm still going to go through what I'm doing so that you guys get it. But I feel bad because I like chatting with you guys. I'm glad you guys come back on in the evenings when I come on. And I do try to get on in the middle of the day, but I didn't yesterday because I'm working on the linings of my bags. So I have to have a certain set time. Your morning chuckles. Thank you, Janie. I have to discipline myself. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. I have to discipline myself and tell myself, okay, you know what? Until these bags are lined from now on, my afternoons are going to have to be cut fabric and do some things to line these bags. So that's why I haven't been on the afternoons. All right. So I finished all my double crochets all the way around. And when I turn my work, this is the back side that I'm looking at, and I have those extra loops. So you'd be looking at it from this side, and that would be the back side towards you. And I'm going to, you see the row of loops that we skipped right there? And again, we went through this yesterday. That is, I'm going to turn and I'm going to work right into those loops. I'm not going to chain. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm just going to turn my work. And I do it like this so that you can see the back, so that you're not like, because if you saw it from my side, you'd just be seeing this. This is the side that I'm crocheting from. But this is the important side, the back side, because this is where like all the magic's going to happen. So if you see it from the back side, you get a better idea of what you need to look for when you turn it your way to look. So when you turn it your way to look, there's your stitches and there's your loops that you skipped. So again, I'm not going to turn because I want to create a pocket. So I'm just going to start doing my double crochets into those skipped loops there. So I didn't chain, I didn't do anything, I just yarned over, and I'm just going to start making my double crochets like I did yesterday. Now after I do this row, that's where I'm going to get a little bit different because I want to make the capacity for that pocket a little bit bigger. I wanted to accommodate those clover hooks, and I wanted to accommodate the clover hooks so you can see it's starting to form like a pocket where we've worked one side and now we're working this loop. So this will go all the way up and form that pocket, just like we did yesterday. I like the clover hooks a lot. For the longest time I only used, and that's what I learned on, were the Bates hooks. And I was hesitant to buy the clover hooks because they looked more like the Boy hooks, B-O-Y-E, the Boy brand hooks. Because for the longest time, that's pretty much all there really was Bates and Boy. And then somebody gave me one of these clover hooks. And it was like, it had all the right, what's the word I'm looking for? Attributes, parts, it had, the way it was made with like, it was like half and half. Half the hook was Bates, half the hook was Boy, the way it was shaped. But it had enough of each of it that it like made it the way that I liked it. So like I really like these. So I want to try to make this pocket bigger so that I can fit my clover hooks in. Okay, so now I don't remember what I did. Did I connect it that time? Let me see here. I did. Okay, so when I went back, so the last time when I went back, I worked my single crochets and I worked them through both loops or both pieces of fabric to join my fabrics. Yeah, well, it was all about this part of it. Because if you look at like the clover hooks compared to, this would be a Bates hook. A Bates hook is like really in line, and a boy hook is like not. It's really rounded, but the Bates hook comes like straight down to the shaft with like a notch grooved, where the boy hooks, the end of your hook here is actually extends beyond the shaft of the hook itself where you hold. So it's like bigger to try to pull through just the tiniest bit, but enough that like I would always get my stitches stuck. But if you look at the clover hooks kind of took both. They kind of made that rounded, like a boy hook, but this doesn't. The end of your hook here doesn't extend beyond this part, so I can like pull it through and keep my tension and like crochet like I did. Like I would feel like I was always getting stuck when I used the. That's the only boy hook I have out here, I think, because the rest of them are all Bates hooks. But this is a bigger one, you can see. Like it's totally in line with itself, and the head's almost smaller than this, so I was able to like pull it through and, you know, crochet like a mad woman. Anyway, okay, so I want to make this a little bit bigger. So I think I'm going to, and I don't like the treble crochets. I did not like them because it just made the spaces too big. So I think I'm going to turn around and I'm going to do my single crochets, but I'm not going to join my fabrics together as a pocket yet. I'm just going to do my single crochets all the way down. So that would be 20 back down to the beginning. I might actually want to do this row of double crochet, but I'm not sure yet. And I'm only going to go down. I'm not going to go around. I'm just going to go to the very end of where this part of my pocket is. So I'm not going to continue going around. I'm just going to stay right here at the end. So I'm going to make sure I have my 20 stitches. Well, that's not right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 17. Oh, I guess that is 18, 19, 20. Okay, so all I'm really doing is extending that pocket so far so I can make it bigger. Now this would have normally been the row that we would have attached it to this part, going down to make things look right. So if I want to make things look right the way the pattern is, I still have to go down this way to attach it, which means I have to go back up one more time. So I'm going to just turn my piece, and in the same part that I did, and again I'm just trying to make the pocket a little bit bigger. So this would have normally been the row that I would have pinched together and worked through both pieces of fabric to join and make my pocket. But instead of pinching them together, I just did it to make my pocket a little bit bigger, so I still have not joined it yet. But since my joining row goes from this part to this part, I have to come back one more row so that I can then join it this way to this way. So you would always need to use like 2 rows. If you're going to extend something, you would need to use those 2 rows to get you right back to where you started so that it was like even. So I'm going to go back with a single crochet, and those 2 rows of single crochet would be almost like I created another double crochet row. Which I might actually rip this out and go back and do if my clover hook doesn't fit in it. Which is okay, because like I said before, I don't mind ripping out stitches I don't mind ripping out stitches because I'm playing with them or doodling or trying to figure out a design. I mind ripping out stitches when I make stupid mistakes. Okay, so we are back to the same point where we would have done the row of single crochet to join our pocket, which is going from the top down. So you can see the bottom part of the pocket is all the way back here. So this is actually going to create a pocket that then you need to go somewhere. So this is actually going to take and create, so this is the short part that's the back. That would help. This is the short part that's the back, and this was the part that we made a little bit longer for the pocket. So now we're going to curl this part up so that we can join those stitches together. And as soon as I do the first couple stitches, I'm going to try to put my hook in there. Why wouldn't I do the single crochet on the other side? I'm not quite sure I understand. You mean on this side? I think that's what you mean. I think you mean on the back side. Why wouldn't I go all the way around? Okay. Because I want the back part of my book to lay flat. Okay. So I can use this. I want the back part of my book to lay flat. Right? And I want the top part of my book to be my hooks and my pockets. Okay? So I consistently don't want my pocket to be longer this way. I just want it to curl up taller. I just want it to curl up taller this way. So it still gives me a bigger pocket. It still gives me a bigger pocket. It still gives me that flat back on it, like a book. But like I don't have the bulge on the front and the back. I just have a flat back and the bulges are you sure? Yes, okay. As long as you're sure, because if not, I'll find another way. But that's why I wouldn't keep going around, because if I kept going around, it would then extend this whole thing out. And you would have a front and the back of that pocket there. And I don't want to make the pocket bigger this way. I just want to make it bigger this way. Because the hooks, the hooks are skinny, so they're not much bigger than that row of double crochet. So you would have more space in between your hooks if you did it that way, and room for less hooks than if you did it this way and you could fit your hooks closer together. So that's why I did it that way. So now I'm going to, oh my God, this dog. I really have to find something else to stick in that bone. I know cheese still has protein in it, but the cheese sauce that I had less protein in it than the peanut butter, so I tried that, and I guess that didn't last him. You do need to go lay down. Please, go. Okay, anyway, so now I am to the point where I'm going to chain one and turn again. So again, this is the back of it. So you would be crocheting, you would be looking at it from this way. But I'm going to show you so that you can see actually what you're doing from the back. So instead of turning it so that you're looking at it like that, I'm just going to show you so you can see. So now I want to bring this pocket down. So I'm going to count up my 20 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, which would be this one. because we want to have our 10 left at the top. So just make sure you have your 10 left. I guess it's easier to count 10 than it is 20. So if I have 10 left, oh, whoops, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I had it right the first time. So you're going to work through both pieces of fabric this time. And again, I'm just playing with this. I may pull it out, but I think that might be big enough. And you know what? I don't have to chain one to do that because I'm just going to work back down. I'm glad you guys tolerate me. You're welcome, Cindy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm going to go into this one, and then I'm just going to... What the heck? That was a little awkward of a stitch, but I made it happen, I guess. Oh, I know why it was awkward of a stitch. I didn't put it through the front first. I do have to chain one. And yeah, this is actually really what goes through my mind while I'm sitting here crocheting. It is a wonder I get anything done sometimes, I think. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But again, the point of this is to teach you guys kind of the thought process. Okay, so I'm going to work through both fabrics to pull this pocket closed. So, and I'm just going to do my single crochets like we normally had closed the pocket. So all the way down, I'm actually going to do the first 5 stitches or so and see if my hook fits in it. If my hook fits in it, then I'm good. If my hook doesn't fit in it, then I'm going to take it apart and try something else. Like maybe another double crochet and then a single crochet stitch. It's really all just about experimenting with the stitches and how they fit together. Okay, so let's see if my hook fits in that. And hey, my hook fits in that. And you can see, like I didn't finish the row, but you can see how I'm going to keep the back of it flat. I'm going to keep the back of it flat. But the bulge from the stitch in the pocket is going to be, yeah, exactly. The bulge from the pocket is just going to be on the front. So that's why I did it that way. So all I did was add those 2 extra rows of stitches. And if you are going to add extra rows, you do have to do them in pairs so that you end up back where you wanted to start to begin with. So I know my hook's going to fit down in that. That's the biggest part of the hook, and I know it's going to fit in there. And I know it's acrylic, it's going to stretch a little bit, so I'm happy with that. And I'm much happier with this than I am with the treble crochet, because the treble crochet was still a little bit hard to get into, and it had like the big spaces in between it, and I didn't really want the big spaces in between it. So even though that's one way that you could extend your pocket, or not extend your pocket, but make your pocket a little bit, oh, there you go. I can do it and I have a tighter stitch, and it just kind of seems like it slides down in there better without that treble crochet. So I like that much better. And again, my back still stays flat, and the bulge for the, you can see how the back stays flat, and the bulge for the hook is on the top, which would be the center of the book. So that works. That works. I like that. So I'm going to add right here that I added 2 extra rows. Single crochet to the pockets. On the front only. I might write this as a pattern. Your pocket is 15 stitches. Yeah, my pocket's 15 stitches too. I just haven't gone down all the way yet. But if I don't write this down, I'll forget it. Front only. Because I might actually write this out as a pattern. That way I have it the next time I want to do it. Then I'm going to work the single crochet down to the bottom, joining. And I write my notes, but that doesn't mean I'm going to like look at them later. Yeah, I think I'm going to do, no, my whole thing, oh, it is. You're right. You're right. I did 20 stitches for the pocket because I made it bigger so that I could show you guys. And again, you can work these pockets the same way up and down if you just want to add more stitches to the length or less stitches to the length. But yeah, I might write this on as a pattern. Give myself something else to do. It's actually not too bad. Like and I'm just going to keep working my way down. But you're right, Janie. I have 20 stitches for my pockets. But you can see how much bigger already that pocket is on the front side. Just on the front side. The back side stays flat, and the front side has a much bigger pocket, so my clover hooks fit. I really should write the pattern. I probably will, because if I'm going to take the time to actually make notes so that I remember it, sometimes it's just as easy for me to take pictures and actually put the whole pattern together, because when I go back to it, sometimes I look at my notes and think, what was I thinking? What exactly was I trying to like tell myself? Yeah, exactly. My notes are a mess. So there's sometimes when I go back that I think to myself, you know, it would have been easier just to actually take the time and row one, write out exactly what I did. And that's, I know, really? I don't know what I'm trying to tell myself sometimes. But that's why I think that it's easier sometimes just for me to write the pattern and then take pictures as I go, and I can insert them right in. That's the other thing, nice thing about like working in Google Drive, is that I can pull up the photos from my Google Photos. Yeah, as long as it works out in the end. Exactly. But I can pull up the photos from my Google Photos, so as soon as I snap a photo, it uploads it to my Google Photos, so I can just go into my Drive and just put that photo right in to my pattern as I'm working it, which is nice. But I might do this with this because I really did have to sit and figure out what I was doing to put it back together. I was really disappointed when I went back to look for the pattern and it was gone. But this one that I'm making is going to be much different because I do want to accommodate a different hook, which may be one of the reasons why the pattern's not available. But it could be a lot of different reasons. Either the woman doesn't crochet anymore, or she discontinued her Ravelry account, or that publication's not available, or the copyright expired, or she's dead and not there to like publish the pattern anymore. I mean, a lot of reasons. It could have been a lot of reasons why that pattern's not available anymore. But okay, so I'm going to continue working my way down, joining my pocket, the front of my pocket to the back of my pocket. Oh, that was a good way to explain it. Joining the front of my pocket to the back of my pocket, and I'm working to the bottom of the pocket. Whoops. And I'm going through both pieces of fabric. And you can see by the time I talk myself through something and write it down, it is time consuming. And that's one of the reasons why when I see paid patterns or other patterns, I'm very hesitant to just outright share them, because somebody took a lot of time. And it might seem like it's simple when you go through that pattern, but somebody took a lot of time to sit and figure that out. And I am crocheting rather tight today. And I'm not going to worry about the gap at the bottom, because when you finish up your stitches at the bottom, and when you start doing, when you do a round around it, you're going to pull that, and it's really not even that big of a gap, because we made that pocket a little bit bigger. and I like this hook because it slides all the way down. You can see there's just a little bit of a gap because we made that pocket a little bit bigger. I'm not going to worry about that because when I go across this and do like a finishing row across the edges, I can stitch right over that pocket like that to close it up. So I'm not worried about that because you can see with this one, when I attach them, there's like a finishing row at the bottom where I attached the cover of my book to the pockets of my book. So I'm not going to worry about that little gap at the end because I can just do that finishing row over. Yes, I don't mind paying for somebody's time and effort. Yeah. Yes, I'm using that single crochet. Good morning, Beth. The only thing I altered in that was that I added the 2 extra rows of single crochet. So instead of doing my single crochet joining both front and back of the pocket, I did 1 more row of single crochet down and up, and then I did my row of single crochet that joins. I am going to have to write this pattern because I really want to remember this. And make sure I have the same amount of stitches for the pocket that I started with, and you can see it's, again, still remains flat on the back, but the bulge of the pocket is much bigger to slip your hook into on the front. Good morning, Barbie. Okay, so now we want to work back up to the top so we can start another pocket. I've got a little bit of space here. I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to single crochet back up this way, and that's going to give me the height that we can then just do our last stitches in our double crochet. So everything at the top is just double crochet. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. You're seeing the front of the pockets there, so you would be working this way. And through both loops I'm just going to single crochet back up the same stitch count as my pocket. So my stitch count for my pocket was 20, just to show you. So I'm going to single crochet all the way back up my pocket. Thought I had some fuzz there. And again, I'm just US terms. My single crochet is insert my hook, yarn over, pull through my stitches, yarn over, pull through my 2 loops. Once I get to the point where I've hit the end of my pocket, you can see from the back that I have a row of single crochet where I joined my pocket together. And I have, good morning, Trudy. And then I have the row of single crochet where I came back, and that gives me the height of the double crochets so that I can just take and I can work the last stitches at the top with my double crochet, same height. And that's one of the reasons why if you want to increase the stitches on the pocket, you have to work in 2s. So put you back in the same place to start the row that you would want to be in, where if you just worked 1, you'd be on the opposite end. If you worked 2, you'd be back where you started. So if you start here and you're doing something, but you want to add extra rows, and then you want to continue the project, if you work 1 extra row, you're starting from the opposite side. You need to work 2 rows, so it puts you back to where you were so that you continue the project and the pattern the way it's written, or like really just kind of screws everything up. So if you want to increase stitches, or if you want to do something like that, you do have to do it in like multiples of 2 the majority of times. There are some exceptions, but the majority of times if you want to increase something, you have to do it in multiples of 2 so that you are where you wanted to start. So if I started here and just worked 1 row to add an extra row, this is where I would normally start. This is just an explanation. This isn't what I'm actually doing with the piece. But if I'm starting here, and my pattern says start here and do X, but I want to add an extra row, and I add one extra row, then do X starts from here, and it totally makes my pattern backwards. But if I want to add an extra row and some extra height or volume or space, and it says do X, and I want to add that extra space, I would have to go back down and then back up to the starting point so that I could then do X, and it finished the way it was supposed to finish. Does that make sense? With the using the 2 rows. Thank you for the likes. That's why the majority of times if you want to do things, you would have to increase them, those rows by multiples of 2. And you can look how tight I'm crocheting today. This is like ridiculous. It's like so much. That was how relaxed I was yesterday. This is how wound up I am already today. The difference in my tension. It is the same hook and the same yarn. Again, that's why I say all the time, you really have to pay attention to your tension, because, and not just, oh my God, pay attention to your tension, because you will tend to do that. You'll make things tighter. Yeah, exactly. You'll make things tighter. Some days you'll crochet a lot tighter than other days, and you kind of have to like look at the project that you've started and compare your tension for that day, just so that you don't end up doing things like same number of stitches, same hook, same yarn, different day. Just your tension's always going to vary. And it's inevitable. Everybody's going to do it, no matter what. So you just kind of have to pay attention. Just something in the back of your mind to pay attention to. Like some of my granny squares or granny bags are bigger than the others, just simply because I guess the day that I did those squares, I was a little bit crazier than other days. So the bags ended up a little bit smaller. But you can see now that that hook slides down in there really nice. See, I made them longer, but you know, if I were actually making this for myself, I would make it a shorter book than I made it. But that clover hook fits in there nice. And what's nice is the majority of the clover hooks, all of the, this is my 6mm one, so even my 6mm one just kind of slides down in there because the handles are pretty much all the same. So I'm going to do one more row of pockets, I think, since it's only 10:30. I'm going to do one more row of pockets, and then I'm going to show you how I would do the center spine. Sorry, my brain just went into La La Land there for a minute. I called my mother and I said I need to get my coffee. She's like, you really don't need any caffeine this morning. I'm like, please. I only drink decaf. All right, I'm going to do the same thing I did the last one. I'm just going to do my double crochet all the way down. So that's 2. Whoops. I'm going to make one more set of pockets, just to go over it one more time. So I'm going to do my double crochet from the top down to my pocket, which is my 10. I'm working with 10. You're working you're working with however many stitches you started with to your pocket. So I have 10 stitches before my pocket, so I'm going to work my 10 stitches to my pocket. Seven, 8, 9, 10. All right. And now because we're at our pocket, and I want to make a pocket, I need to leave the extra loop. So again, I need to work just in these back loops so that I have the front loop that I can work into for the front of the pocket. So I'm just going to work the same double crochet, but now for the pocket part I'm only working through the back loop of my project. And I know I did 20, however many you did for the length of your pocket. I should have done these a little bit shorter, that way I wouldn't be sitting here doing so many stitches to show you, and I could just jump to the next part. I could have just jumped to the next part, but I just wanted to go over it one more time. So again, I'm just working in the back loops, and I'm leaving the front loops open for my pocket. Just sit up straight. Oh, there it goes. Told my husband, I said, my neck and my shoulders are killing me. Am I back, guys? Seems like I was frozen there for a while. Good morning, Cindy. If I'm here, good morning. I'm back now? Okay. Hook books. So this is a pattern that's no longer available. So I kind of had to go through how to go through what I would do with my stitches to make it. So I kind of had to like mentally deconstruct it to put it back together. Give me a second. All right. I switched my connection there. Maybe I'll stop freezing. But that's what I'm doing, Trudy. I'm doing the hook case. So, and today I was playing with the stitches on the front. No, it's not just you. It's not just you. Because it flashes up there that I lost my connection. So I try to stop talking when it tells me that. So the back is flat like a book. In the front, the pockets, I was showing you how to make bigger pockets so that they were bigger on the front, but still flat on the back. So today was like an experiment to do something different, because yesterday I tried doing like the treble crochets to make the pockets bigger, but I didn't like how holy it was. Thus the explanation about doing even rows to bring you back where you were, because I did 2 even rows of single crochet, and I'm making another pocket here now so you can see. So I made the hook pocket bigger, but it's only bigger on the front to accommodate the hook, and it stays flat on the back. So now that I worked my way down the pocket in my back loops only, continued my double crochets down in the back loops only, I have the front loops that are open. So when I turn my work, again, and I know we went over this, I'm just going to yarn over. I'm going to put it into that first front loop. And I'm going to work my first double crochet of that pocket like that. And it would just be similarly like, and then yarn over and do my next double crochet in that free loop. And just work my double crochets all the way up those free loops. Just like you would work up and down both sides of a chain. If you just had the chain, we're doing the same thing, and that creates the pocket for the hook. So I'm going to work my double crochet all the way up to the back, to the top here, to my last loop, and I should have 20. You can have as many as you started with. And then I'm going to add my stitches or add my rows to make my pocket bigger, and that's what we were talking about. You have to increase in even number rows to put yourself back where you should be to get your pattern right. But I'll do my increasing rows next. First I'm going to finish my row of double crochet in those free loops. So I'm working all the way back up my 20 stitches. I should have just done 10 and 10. It would have been a lot quicker. But when I counted my book had 30 stitches, which is why I did 30. Okay, so I've worked all the way back up my... So you see the last free loop there. You can see the free loops. So I worked in that one. I have 3 more to do, and that'll be my last free loop. And after I do that loop, I want to make my pocket a little bit bigger and more accommodating. So the way the other book was made, and I know I just explained it, but I'm going to explain it again. The way the other book was made is that you would now take this right here and you would crochet these 2 pieces together with a single crochet, right? You would just go down and you would crochet both pieces of fabric, and it would give you this pocket that's right here. So you would just, don't do it because I'm explaining how I'm going to increase my rows. So if you just did the way the pattern wanted you to do it, you would start here and you would piece these together with a single crochet down to the bottom. And that would give you a pocket that would accommodate just a regular hook, right? I wanted to accommodate this, so I want to add more rows because this does not fit into this pocket very well. I still need to be at this point to join my fabric together. Am I here or not here? I don't want to keep talking if I'm frozen to all you guys. Here, okay. All right. So if I want to stitch my fabric together and I want to work from the middle of my project down to the bottom of my project, if I want to add extra rows, I still have to connect my fabric from the middle of my project to the end of the project, which means I can't just add 1 row because then I'm connecting it the wrong way. I have to go down and then back up, which would make 2 extra rows, so then I'm then continuing from this same spot. In and out. Am I more consistent now, or am I still in and out? I'm trying, I'm working on it. What the heck? All right, guys, am I back, or am I still freezing? In and out. Okay. It's raining here. Sometimes it rains and the internet and the Wi-Fi sucks. Oh, I have a big robin that just perched himself right outside my window. Boy, that must be a she. She's awful fat. Oh my God, she just tried to fly into the window. She's still trying to fly into the window. Huh. Okay, anyway. Okay, so if I wanted to join my fabric together at this point, this is the point in the pattern that tells me to join my fabric together, right? But if I wanted to add more rows, if I added one row to add an extra row, I would then be continuing my pattern from the wrong side of my row. So I would have to add 2 rows to bring me up to where the pattern is again, so I could continue it the way it was written and it wouldn't end up being backwards. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain 1, and you can see from the back, I'm going to add my extra rows to the front of the pocket only, and I'm just going to single crochet. Again, I'm working the front of the pocket only, and I'm adding these extra 2 rows to accommodate my clover hook. And I'm only adding them on the front because I want the back to stay flat. So I'm going to work all the way down my single crochet. I know I'm working fast, but again, I should have done 10 and 10 stitches instead of 20 and 10 stitches. But that's part of the process of trying to figure things out and counting stitches. Sometimes you figure you want to do something a little bit differently. So I want to make sure I get to the very, very end, because I'm just going to add the rows to the front. I'm not adding the rows all the way around because I want the back of the pattern to stay exactly the way it was so that it stays flat. I just want the front of the pocket to be a little bit bulgier. So the back stays flat and is the same as the exact written pattern. Gives you time to restart with a smaller hook. And then, but the pocket will bulge up from the top from adding the extra rows so that you can fit your clover hook in there. So I'm only working rows. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 19. Okay, so I worked my 20 down. And because you have to work an even number so that we're back up here again to join our fabric, I'm going to chain my 1 and I'm going to turn. And again, I'm only working in this part here because I'm just adding the rows to the top part of the pocket, not all the way around. So I'm just going to turn and work my same 20 stitches. I'm just going to turn and work my same 20 stitches. Back down that same piece of fabric. Just that row that's going to end up being the top of the front of our pocket. So I'm going to skip this one right here for now because this is the back, and we don't want our back to be any different because we want it to be flat. We just want to add some to the front of the pocket. So this would be the front of the pocket. So I'm just going to keep stitching up the front of the pocket like my 20 stitches. And you could make this pocket even bigger if you wanted to make it bigger on the front side to like maybe stick your scissors in. But again, you would have to do it in even rows. So you would have to do maybe 4 rows before you then join the front and back pieces of your fabric. So now I've done my 2 rows, and it puts me in the middle where my pattern. Oh, maybe. She's looking for a mate. She sees her reflection. Maybe. I don't know why. That was like really bizarre. She just kept flying into the window. So you see, this is going to be the front of my hook. The front of my pocket for my hook. So you see I've made the front part so that it will curl up in the front part of my book, but yet the back of it's going to stay flat. It's the same pattern. And again, if you wanted to make this curl up even further so that it would maybe fit a pair of scissors into it, although that does fit a pair of scissors, you would then just have to do 2 more rows. Like you couldn't do 3 rows, again with the even and the odd rows. You couldn't do 3 rows because it would put you on the wrong side to connect your fabric, and then it would like screw everything up for how you finish the end. So you would have to do it in multiples of 2. So if you wanted to make this pocket even bigger here on the front, you would then add maybe another 2 rows. So it would then be 4 rows instead of 2 rows. But if you're going to increase your rows for the front of the pocket to make the front of your pocket bulge and a little bit more accommodating, you have to do it in increments of 2s. They have to be even rows, just so it puts you where you need to be to then finish the pattern the way it's supposed to be to make the pocket. So now that I've done my 2 rows, I'm not going to do 4 rows and put you guys through that. Now that I've done my 2 rows, I'm going to chain 1 and turn, which I've already turned. And now I'm going to work through this, just like we did initially with the smaller pocket. I'm going to work through this piece of fabric and through the back one. So I'm going to make sure I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is my first stitch. So I'm going to work through both of those now to join it. Just going to yarn over and pull through, and then through 2, and I'm going to work that row of single crochet all the way down to join the fronts and the backs. So if you added an odd row of stitches, you would then be working this joining stitch up to here, and then the next row you would have to do like a row of single crochet here instead of your row of double crochet here, because you have to be working this way with your single crochet to join it to get your second row of single crochet for your short rows to make up the height that you could continue with your double crochets down to the end. I know it seems like I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but I'm trying to rephrase it a little bit differently because what clicks for me might not click for you, and what clicks for you might not click for me. So if I find different ways to explain it, hopefully I can manage to get it to click and fall into place for everybody, for all of us. So again, I'm just bending this down, grabbing the next stitch on the pocket there, and then just pulling through my single crochet. So through there, and joining my 2 pieces there. I'm working all the way down. One more stitch after this, and then again I'm not going to worry about any gap there might be at the end of this pocket here, because I made it a little bit bigger, because I can just put my finishing edge stitch right into the bottom of that pocket there, so that there is no gap when I'm done with it. Okay, so now we're going to turn, and there's the front of our pocket that we made bigger and we stitched it together. The back's flat. We're going to continue our pattern, which is to just single crochet back up to the beginning of the pocket again, and this is why it's important that you increase in even number of rows, so that when you're working your short rows, it's especially important when you're working short rows like this, and that's essentially what these are called, are short rows. Same kind of principle as when we did our shark fins. It's just a different way to do them, and it makes a different shape. So now when I come to the top of my pocket, with my 20 stitches here, because I've done my 2 rows of single crochet, the 1 row down to join, and then the 1 row back, I now have a stitch height that is the stitch height of my double crochet that I finish this back part of my fabric with. So you see, if we did it that way and continued the pattern, when we did our second row of this, it would be down here, and like it doesn't make sense. So that's why, again, you have to sometimes increase in even rows only. So I'm going to work all the way back up here to the top with my double crochet, because you can see now the height from the 2 rows of single crochet is your height of your double crochet. So it makes it, don't even look at the bottom, so it makes it so it's flat on the back, and you have your pockets on the front. All these are always double crochet, and then these are the pockets that we formed with the short rows. And then I'm just going to jump into how I would do the back. So I have to look at that for a minute, which gives me a minute to sip some coffee here. So 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. One of my turning train makes 10. So now you got your piece that's flat on the back and should be your perfect triangle if you weren't looking at my tension. If you weren't looking at my tension. And then you have all your raised pockets on the front. Okay, so to do the spine of the book, so I'm going to look in here at my pockets. And when I look inside my pockets, if I look inside from this end, I can see that I didn't sew that together. I stitched that together. Like there's stitches there. I did not sew that. So that's from that end, and that's from that end. Which means I had to have left a loop. So if this is my pocket piece, I had to have left a back loop or a front loop open for me to stitch this right onto it. So when I do the spine of my book, and I can see that it's all single crochets, so you can see it's like a couple rows of single crochets there. And then just like we started this side with a row of single crochet, it looks like I started that row with a single crochet too. So this would be my double crochets that I worked up. I'm just looking to see how, so I'm going to try to like decipher what I did here. My single crochets that I worked up, and then my double crochets. Okay, then it looks like I did 1 row of single crochets. So for the spine, I'll always multiple too, yeah. So for the spine of my book, it looks like I turned, and instead of doing my double crochets, I just did a row of single crochets all the way down. So again, this would be the spine of my book. So this part in the center right here. So it looks like I did 1 base row all the way down. Again, mentally deconstructing this piece so that I can figure out how I put it together. And this one does look like I worked in both loops, so I'm doing 1 all the way down, to finish off this side. So that finishes off that side of the book. And then I want to be able to attach the cover of the book with a stitch. So I don't want to have to sew this, and even if I do want to sew it, I don't want the stitches to be seen, so you would still kind of have to do this. So the next row that I would do, I would then come down and work in the front loops. I would just do my single crochet all the way back up in my front loops. Or I'm sorry, in my back loops, because I want to leave this loop on the back side of it. So when I turn I'm working through the front loop, the back loop. You guys are going to be so confused. I have myself confused. Okay, so the way I'm working through the back loop. So I'm looking at it, working through the back loop. So that on the back of my piece, I have these extra loops here. So on the flat part, the back of my book, I have these extra loops here where I can then go back and join the cover of my book. So I'm going to keep working all the way down that way, just working in my back loops. That would be my back loop. If you're working this way, this would be the back loop, so that I have this front loop free to join my book. So I'm going to work all the way down. And again, if you just wanted to keep going and making pockets so that you could do like a wrap, you could do that as well. But these are like the little details. These are the parts that, and the details that when you're doing something and you have your finished project or product or piece, these are the little details that when you pay attention to your front or back loops, and you can see now that I've got like a nice row of loops. Like this is the stitches that I'm doing, and I have the loops left on the back where I can attach the cover of the book. Oh, thank you, Janie. It's okay. It helps to hear it over and over for me. I appreciate that. But it's those little details that you do that might not seem like much, like working through the front and the back loops might not seem like much, but it's that little detail that when you pick up this book and you open it and you look at the way it's constructed, you say, oh my God, that's like really nice. Boy, I really like that. You know, I like how that's done. You know, it's those little details that put that in there to make it what it is. And sometimes those little details are just as simple as just working through one loop of the stitch instead of two loops of the stitch. Just like making your motifs pop on your granny squares. You're just working through one loop of your stitch instead of both loops of your stitch. So they're really easy things that you can do, that you can add to the piece that you want to put together, that make it look like totally different. She likes feedback. I know you guys are still here. I really sometimes wonder about my explanations, and I just want to make sure that they're right. Okay, so now working in multiples of 2. Back to multiples of 2. I finished this side of the book with a row of single crochet, and then I did the first half of the spine with a single crochet just in the one loop. So it's going to give me like that edge look to it. So it doesn't really, it might look a little bit different. So it kind of gives like an edge to it. So almost like it's starting to bend over. So there's my, I'm trying to get it so it looks right. So it would start to form an L shape because we just worked in that one loop and left this loop free on the back. So you can see if I pick it up, I work the row of single crochet into the loop that was on the pocket side. So now to complete it, I'm just going to do a regular row of single crochet because we now need 2 more rows to put us back where we started. So I'm going to just do 1 regular row of single crochet. I'm going to kind of work backwards. And again, this is the spine of the book. So I want a little bit of height for the spine, which is why I'm doing this, to accommodate the bulk that the hooks are going to take up. So in your book, your hooks are going to lay flat and you need a little bit of room